2024, what a year of running.
Mind-blowing. I actually think this might be the most pivotal year for running ever. And we made 100 episodes.
I actually can't believe that. And we're here to recap all of the highlights of everything that you might have missed in what's been an incredible year for running.
I might actually get a bit emotional. Rick, have you got any tissues?
No, but I've got a hanky.
Oh, God, monogrammed?
God save the king.
On with the podcast.
100 episodes. Well done, you two.
I can't believe we
put up
made
with
it.
you for 100 episodes.
Done.
Yeah.
100 episodes.
Did you manage to be in every single one apart from one?
No, this year, well, that's correct. But this year, you were in more than I was.
Was I?
You didn't miss an episode in 2024.
Wow, including, she's missed a couple of the Running Channel meets.
Yeah, she missed meets, but not the main main show. You've not missed one.
52 episodes this year then.
Yeah, 2 years of doing the podcast. Not many pods make 100 episodes.
And you know what? We haven't fallen out twice.
And we want to be here. We want to be here for the 500th episode.
Do we?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I want to put an early request in that, we have made it to 100 podcast episodes, which is incredible. Something I'm really proud of, and never thought we'd get there, particularly because Rick is quite annoying. But if you do like the podcast, then I'm putting the correct request in now instead of at the end of the podcast. Then share this with at least one other person who likes running, who you think might get a kick out of this, and we could accompany them on their runs, long or short. Rick would like them to be shorter. We would like the podcast to be longer. But yeah, make sure you share it, and then we can reach even more people when we get to 200
Andy,
podcasts.
but in 2024, this podcast's average length grew by 15%.
Wow.
How on earth did you get the maths for that?
Because we looked at the average length of podcasts in 2023 and compared them to 2024.
Did you?
And the growth is 15%.
And we decided not to let you do the percentage calculation.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm more confident.
I was going to say, I'm not. I wasn't involved.
Down
so
to people like Ross Noble who demanded it be longer, but it was already longer.
If Ross asks, Ross gets.
They're pretty much fill 40 minutes now.
Yeah, next year, 2025, 50 minutes, I heard.
But I would like to know as well, if you're listening or watching, then send us an email, drop us a comment. If you wanted to email us, it's podcast@therunningchannel.com, with what has been your favourite podcast moment so far in those first 100 episodes.
Or episode, and we'll have to have a
Have you two got favourites? I'll put you on the spot here, haven't
I? My one favourite episode is the one that you're not in.
That one?
Yeah.
With James?
Yeah. No,
right.
I'm joking.
I liked that one too. That was good.
Everyone said that one down really well.
Also, you've been giving me stick about one very specific episode in recent days, and that was when we went to Budapest for the World Athletics Championships, and we spoke to a couple of amazing athletes, and you were cross at me because neither of you got to say anything.
Oh, yeah. Sarah and I just sat there for 50 minutes.
I was the only one that had bothered to do any research.
And we kept on going, and Andy, come in. No. Andy wants this one as well.
We'll
sit back. Sit back, relax.
The Olympians asking another
question. Sit back, relax,
and
enjoy the show.
Do you want to know what my favourite episode was?
Go on.
The one that we did remotely. We haven't done a lot remote, but when
From
Osaka. Yeah.
That was really early in the podcast. It was Rick and I were in our respective houses, and then you were in a lovely hotel room with the skyline of Osaka behind you. I think.
February 2023.
That was early.
So that must have been like episode 6 or 8 or something.
Yeah, I'd run the marathon, and then because of the time difference, I think I was doing it at 8 p.m. and you guys were doing it quite early in the morning UK time. And we did such a good episode. And then I turned around at the end, and Tom was supposed to be monitoring the audio, and he'd fallen asleep on the bed.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, what's amazing about that is that's the only episode out of all 100 episodes that was not where we weren't in the same room.
Yeah.
I know.
Which I think is some feat.
I'm not quite sure that came about. Yeah.
I think it's a bit like holding a GoPro. Rick refused to do it unless he was in the same room as everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. To be honest, a couple of weeks ago in Malaga, there was no way I could have got through that race while holding a GoPro. I couldn't hold anything.
Don't worry.
No.
Yeah.
Should we also talk about, we promised in last week's episode that we would talk a little bit more about Rick's upcoming musical pursuits. Now, you have a limited amount of time here to talk before everyone gets bored. But
right.
Undercarriage, Carnage, off you go.
I want to give some context here, is that we were in a really lovely tapas.
Quite posh tapas
restaurant in Malaga. And Rick was very proudly, and this is incredible actually because he has a big phobia of playing anything out on a speaker in a public space, was very proudly telling one of our team who hadn't somehow heard The Last Man on Earth about it over dinner. And then they listened to it. They were quite quite sort of enraptured with it. They were,
Yeah, I mean,
they were very
were
appreciative.
actually.
Yeah, they were singing it along the next
this
day.
was Stevie who ran the marathon, so
Yeah.
he works in the office and he
Yeah.
didn't know that I'd released a single.
Which
You
is
sound quite
miraculous.
accusatory about that.
Yeah.
You know, we
70,000
don't
streams.
just play it.
It
No,
hasn't
I
had
know.
70,000 streams. That's got to be some kind of bug. But Rick then debuted
Must
the
be a
thought.
bug.
Yeah, he then debuted, the thought of you're releasing a 6-track EP.
Yeah, so tell us
Yeah.
about, pretend we're on the radio and we're interviewing you.
Yeah. What's the first track going to be called on the EP, Rick?
Yeah.
It's just Last Man on Earth is the lead track.
Oh, okay.
On the EP,
Right.
so it's 6 tracks,
Yeah.
and
What's the
other songs
EP?
include the Bergerac Drifter, who's about a strange man who travels around Bergerac in
didn't know
the
that.
south of France.
Right, okay.
Yeah, on a motorbike.
And sorry, the whole
Yeah.
album, what title are we
Modern
thinking?
Dilemmas.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Why
Modern
we do
Dilemmas.
a podcast with you, a modern dilemma.
But the
Yeah.
next single for this coming year, so 2025, is called Undercarriage, Carnage, and I gave you a little bit of a sample in the restaurant.
Would you be
when we were
happy
at-
to give a little bit of a sample
Yeah,
now?
yeah,
This
yeah.
is ridiculous. What are we doing?
It's love me, hate me, whatever it will be. It's undercarriage carnage for me.
I mean,
It
all of this is
sounds
carnage for
quite
me.
like Mary Poppins-esque. And
Yeah.
you might be thinking, I'm listening to a running podcast. What on earth is he
So
talking
it's
about?
Rick Van Dyke?
Undercarriage Carnage is talking about
Chafing.
bum chafing.
Just chafing.
Just
yeah,
chafing.
Chafing in general.
Yeah, just general chafing. Yeah.
Well, I
Right.
mean, of your
I
undercarriage.
no, seriously, in Spain, I had some bad chafing. I was bleeding in the bath when Andy came back.
Oh, no.
This is because I'm,
No one
you two
needs
have
to know that.
you two are very comfortable talking about this type of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not as comfortable.
No.
But I
Comfortable
forgot
enough to be
to
naked in
take-
the bath and beckon
yeah,
me in.
no, I'm comfortable with my, joie de vivre. But I
Is that what we're calling
had
it?
such sore nipples. I didn't tape them. I should have taped them, and they were rock solid for days after.
I can
and
actually
they
see
did
them
bleed.
poking out of your t-shirt.
Yeah,
now.
and they bled for a couple of days,
Wow.
and I'm not sure if it was a combination of the type of top that I wore, but I generally just wore a running channel top.
Yeah.
Also, the weather was a bit warmer.
Honestly, when it's hot, you're
It's-
then sweaty, and then
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
causes all kinds
But I
of
mean,
difficulties.
it was tough, and I really would advise people to tape up because it
Yeah.
got a bit emotional. And just having a shower for a couple of days afterwards
But this-
was tricky.
But this new single, Undercarriage Carnage, that
Yeah.
can't be about your nipples.
No. Undercarriage Carnage is about the difficulties of chafing with exercise. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
a niche
You've literally
song
made
topic,
that
isn't it?
sound so profound.
Yeah. You know what else I learned recently?
Real good.
I learned that you shouldn't wash your face in hot water.
Why is that? Because of your pores.
Opens the
Because
pores.
it can give you it can open your pores and it can make your capillaries pop.
Make your capillaries pop.
Whenever
I mean,
Yeah.
you use
I'm
the
going to give a
word
disclaimer
hot-
here as whether I don't know whether this is true.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
Um,
spoke to a top skin expert
of course you
who
did.
told me
Were you looking in a
it's
big,
very
shiny
very
thing called
bad
a
to wash your
mirror?
face in very hot water, so not as hot as the rest of the shower. Because
Great.
I heard it on another podcast and I wanted to clarify that it was true, and it is true. But anyway,
well,
we're here
yeah.
to talk about the moments of 2024.
Yes, we are, and I'm pretty convinced that the best moment of 2025, when we come to sum that up, will not contain a mention of Undercarriage Carnage. But I
But you never
I'm
know.
Ready, I'm ready to be surprised.
You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And look at what can happen in a year.
Yeah.
Think about the power of the
Yeah.
mind to achieve things in a year. So if you told me at the beginning of
What on earth is he
2024,
I don't know. I don't think he's going to be able to
No.
manifest
no, I'm just going to
Undercarriage
this thought.
Carnage
Let me
number
debut
one
this thought.
in the UK.
Please debut this thought. We're
Oh
all
my
sitting on.
goodness.
If you told me at the beginning of
literally on the edge our
2024 that
seats.
I would have released a single with 70,000 streams, I would have.
Oh my god! Oh
I-
my god!
I-
You
I-
haven't
I-
got
I would-
70,000
I-
streams.
Okay, well, the distributor must be telling porkies.
I think your distributor is
music distributor.
something you made on word art.
Yeah. Yeah.
But who knows what's possible in 2025? A book, maybe.
What,
A
Rick Kelsey book?
You want to write a book? Look at his little pink.
A book, maybe.
You want to write a book?
In 2025,
sorry.
I'd like to debut the thought of doing it.
As in, you write one or we write one? Because I think with me and Andy, you could have an incredible book. With just you, you'd have to have so many disclaimers. I think half the book would just be...
The legal wrangling of publishing anything that he writes would be
I've talked about this with Andy. It's not actually a running. I'd like to write a personal finance book potentially in 2025, but we'll see.
Okay.
Oh, that's quite
but
cool.
anyway.
Should we talk about running?
Let's talk about running.
Sorry. Should we go straight in?
Andy's like, get on with it.
Should we go straight in with some highlights, or does any of us, how's post-half marathon life? What are you going to train for next? Or are you having some downtime?
Well, on next week's episode, we're going to be talking all about how to train for a marathon. So I think we should leave that until then, because listen to his little face, or listen to his little face. Look at him. He is so uncomfortable because we're going to try and put him under some pressure.
Okay, stay tuned for that.
Yeah,
and we'll go through what we're training for.
I think you two the same. I know, Andy, you're just coming back from injury at the moment, but it is nice to have a bit of a detox this time of year and kick back from the training
from running.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that your Christmas period is in any way possible to be described as a detox.
All I do is put the golf ball on the tee for you, isn't
yes,
it?
It really is. I mean,
I just literally put the golf ball on the tee.
More than you do most weeks.
Yeah.
From a kind of workload perspective.
Okay, well, let's go through 2024. And at the end, I think we should go through our own personal highlights of 2024, running related, Rick. I know your wife became a UK citizen this year, but that was a highlight. That was a highlight.
Yeah,
anyway,
we're going to talk about it, but I'm going to just plant the seed that a genuine highlight for me this year was the 10 days in Paris with you guys. I know we're going to talk about what happened out there, but that was magical and something I never thought we'd be able to do. I mean, we were all a bit bored of each other by the end of it, but it was brilliant.
It was one of the best weeks of my life.
Yeah, the Olympics was absolutely phenomenal. One, to just have the privilege of being able to be trusted, I guess, to talk about it, but also to have the privilege to be inside the stadium and see people winning, setting records. It was absolutely amazing. And 2024 was a huge year for world records. So let's go through some kind of overall world records and then come back to the Olympics.
Yeah, good shout.
2,000 meter world record.
Not run very often, but the time for this is absolutely ridiculous.
It was set by Jessica Hull
from Australia
in July at the Monaco Diamond League, and she ran 5 minutes, 19 seconds and 70.
So bear in mind that's 2 back-to-back 2-minute 40 kilometers. So that's absolutely unreal. Remember, I mean, just to bring it back to me, another highlight of 2024 was when you guys forced me to do a 1K all-out time trial on the road. Yeah. And I think I ran 2:39.
Yeah.
All out.
And she's just done that twice.
Yes.
That is insane.
It's such an unusual distance, though, 2,000 meters.
Yeah, so 5 laps of the track, which it's really unusual.
Where do they run that? Is that
no? They just tend to put it on if
special event.
Yeah, or a particular athlete wants to go after a world record, then she was in shape to go after that, which is amazing. Really Monaco Diamond League. I always wanted to run in Monaco. That was the one super fast meet every year, and never got to run there.
Another record. Faith Kipyegon, 1,500 metres, which she ran in Paris in July.
Yes.
3:49.04 for 1,500 metres.
Again, that's
very quick.
I remember the first time I broke 3:50 for 1,500 metres. But that
you didn't have the shoes though, mate. You didn't have the shoes, remember?
Oh, really?
No, but I mean, I'm trying to put it in perspective. Like, for the female record to be under 3:50 is just absolutely unreal. And to watch that, she's such an incredible runner to watch. We all got to watch her at the Olympics, which we'll come on to, but just whenever the 1,500 metre world record is broken, that's something that's exciting for me. And the men's one hasn't been broken forever. So, and
that's even faster than the 2,000 metre splits. So that's faster than 240 per kilometre for 1.5K.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, she's got less fast to run, so it's going to be faster.
As much.
Isn't the men's one from the 80s or something?
No, the men's is Hisham El Garouj, which I think is from like the mid to late 90s. So it's either 96 or 99, sometime around there.
Long time ago.
And then, should we just talk about probably the world record that we were all watching with our mouths wide open, because we talked about it literally on a podcast a few weeks before it happened. When was a woman going to break 2:10 in a marathon?
And I think it happened.
And then it rolled out.
I thought never.
Yeah, honestly, there was such a big chunk to cut off. And then Ruth Chepngetich ran 2:09.56.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, none of these seem human, any of these world record times.
No.
That one in particular, though, bear in mind, Paula Radcliffe's record was 2:15. And that had stood for since 2000, since early 2000s, 2003, 2004.
5 minutes off that.
Yeah, it's I mean there have been interim records broken in the last few years,
Mm.
but still, you know, there's the shoes. It's just that are making a difference, but still, that's absolutely phenomenal.
Andy, that was one of the highlights of my year, helping Paula Radcliffe work her Lime bike in Paris.
Oh yeah, we bumped into Steve Cram, former 1500 meter world
Got it
record
off the hook
holder,
for her.
and Paula Radcliffe. We booked outside the track one night in the little bike zone.
Yeah.
That was when we managed to get through, because it was a long way round to get to those Lime
Yes.
bikes. And but if you'd parked your own bike, you got a special wristband. So I went up to the police and went, "Le Lime?"
Yes, you did.
Le Lime.
This
And they let us through.
incredible moment where I'd had to put up with Rick just being so sort of annoyingly confident and quite good with his French throughout our time in Paris, but also
Look at his smug face.
but also what we had to deal with Rick's French was that the confidence was sometimes misplaced.
Really?
Sometimes, yes.
Right.
Where I think that when you're learning a new language, we were talking about this recently, if you have, say, a glass of wine or a beer or something, then you lose your inhibitions a little bit, and confidence is often your main barrier to speaking a language because you're worried about making a mistake.
Right.
The benefit that Rick has is that regardless of alcohol consumption, he has that confidence and lack of inhibition already.
He really
So he's
does.
more than happy to brazen straight into any situation, and much like Joey on Friends, go "Ah, blah, 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 blah," and see what happens.
And
But-
then when they ask, then the person who he's talking to is slightly confused.
Yeah.
He's like, "What do you mean you're confused?" I've literally just said perfect French.
yes, exactly.
You
It
might
really
have
was
been
a
in France
special
your
week.
whole life, but
Yeah,
I am
but a
your
highlight
friend.
was Rick actually pulling out some pretty good French, and then Sarah being confronted with a French policeman and just going
Le Lime? Le Lime?
Hey, it worked. It
Yeah.
did work.
Yeah.
Now, men's world records, also very cool this year. Jakob Ingebrigtsen breaking the 3,000 meter world record at a time of 7 minutes, 17 seconds, and 55. I want to say
3,000 metres again.
milliseconds.
Yeah.
They're not milliseconds, they're hundredths of a second.
Hundredths of a second.
Hundredths of
Okay,
a
good.
second.
We've had
Just
this
checking.
discussion previously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know. I'd got it wrong before, so I just you'll know if you listen
Yeah.
back. I'm just going 7, 17, 55.
I can't keep up with Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Like, he's just always doing something different.
Did you see him as well recently? He was running in the cross country.
Yes, he won the
World
European
champs.
cross country.
World champs.
European cross country championships.
We
Yeah.
were talking about people who
European
need a break.
cross-country.
He needs a break, that lad.
He does need a break. Also,
He's had his break and come back ready to win the European cross country, and he won it and cracked on.
so out of context though, seeing him covered in mud.
Yes.
Like the contrast of him flying around a track versus muddy legs in a field
Yeah.
somewhere.
Well, what's interesting is I was watching the European cross country champs, and now I think Jakob Ingebrigtsen has single-handedly been responsible for a wholesale fashion change in elite running. So every single person at the front of that field, and now on the track mostly, wears the same thing as him, which is like the all-in-one bodysuit, like the
Little onesie.
yeah, like the onesie, like cycling shorts up to a tight
Wow,
vest at the top.
that's so interesting.
No one ever wore that when I was competing. Actually, one guy did, a French guy called Mehdi Bala, but he was the only one.
I bet
Everyone
Josh
else wore.
Kerr doesn't wear it.
I don't think he does actually.
He's not going to follow.
You know,
No.
that's also becoming, Jess was saying when we were running the Malaga half, it's quite common when you run European races that you see people wearing all in one, like more kind of like a tri-suit for
Yeah.
the marathon. I'm guessing it's to help the undercarriage carnage situation
Oh.
and waist chafing.
Doesn't help if you need the toilet though, does it?
No, but
So how do you
deal with
just
things
wee.
quickly.
get access? But we also just
maybe it has a little flap.
Oh, I don't think they have little flaps. That'd be weird. I also that gesture that you just did
This
then
is-
to demonstrate where the flap would be was disgusting. But
This
Jakob
is definitely taking an angle.
Jakob
Flappy angle.
Stop it. Stop it. Jakob Ingebrigtsen's record, you guys tried to break as a relay earlier this year.
Oh,
We
yeah.
did. We failed phenomenally.
Catastrophically, yeah.
Catastrophically.
I mean, you did tell me you're going to try and do this thing, and I was like, well, you're not going to do it. And you're like, yeah,
and we brazenly went out to the track. It was freezing, and we couldn't have failed.
you were
more
doing
if we
50-meter
tried.
sprints
Yeah,
between a
and
team
honestly,
of 4 of you to try and
every
run this
single
time.
one of us, maybe apart from Tom, he kind of gave up halfway through. But
Yeah.
every single one of us rallied, and we were miles off. I think we did 9 minutes between 5
Wow.
of us.
That's just
And this
shows
was
how
my
insane it is.
this was my personal best that I was one of my personal best that I was the most proud of was my 3K PB,
Which was
7:39,
wow.
which at the time I thought was fast, and I was very proud of it.
I
But
mean,
I'm
that is
22 seconds
22
slower than
seconds.
this.
Yeah, but that's still pretty
Yeah, but
fast.
without the shoes, mate.
That's all
without
right.
the shoes.
Oh, yeah.
22
Without the
seconds in the
Do you reckon the
shoes.
shoes are worth 22 seconds? I'm
Yeah,
not so
bit
sure.
of
I think
wind,
the
bit of
athlete might have
wind.
done some of
Maybe
those.
you just didn't shave your head quite enough on that day, so you had a bit of
Yeah.
friction from
Yeah, it didn't have the optimal kind of wind resistance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's another
And I
mo-
wasn't in an all-in-one bodysuit.
Speaking of you and your distance, one of the moments of the year, it's got to be the 1500 meter. When we were watching Ingebrigtsen, we were watching Josh Kerr, and we expected that to be the jewel of the night.
And it was the
And
jewel until
then-
about 50 metres
And
to go.
it was. And
Cole
then,
Hocker.
The US 1500 metre runner.
who is Cole Hocker?
Well, he's the Olympic champion
Exactly.
in an Olympic record,
But
327.
then you had all these people coming around afterwards going, oh yeah, we thought Cole Hocker had a shout in that. It's like,
This is
tell
so-
me you knew his name before that race, because I didn't.
The
Yeah.
odds on Cole Hocker as well, because I remember that was all anyone was talking
Yeah.
about. That like if you'd bet on that race, the odds on Cole Hocker I think were really good. This is one thing though that I found very interesting whilst watching Sprint, the documentary series that
great.
follows
Yeah.
100, 200 meter.
And Rick's favourite athlete.
I'm Rick's favourite
Gabby
athlete,
Thomas.
Gabby Thomas.
Yeah.
Oh, you whispered that in a weird ASMR way that made me a bit uncomfortable.
But the
Gabby Thomas, sorry.
interesting thing about the second series of Sprint, which has just come out on Netflix, which covers the Olympics, is that actually, if you think of like the heats, like how many athletes are going into the Olympics and qualifying, actually you do get quite a lot of kind of like shock wins or surprises or like people who you weren't quite anticipating. So it's quite interesting if you watch Sprint, you have all of the famous faces from season one, like Gabby Thomas, all of the kind of different favourite contenders, and then suddenly they're like, and don't forget this guy.
Yeah.
And there was a really interesting interview with one person who was like, I never get media coverage. And they did really well at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So they were kind of like...
Oh, was Cole Hocker in it?
No, they don't go up
It's
to
a sprint, isn't it?
1500.
Oh,
I do
yeah,
think
yeah,
they
yeah.
need a middle distance edition of Sprint.
Version of
That
it.
would be very
I think
good.
that's a good point about the Olympics, though, is that you don't, I think often, or perhaps I was on the other side of this, so I just assumed there was less understanding of it. It's just how hard it is to get to the final at the Olympics, because the final is the place where the medals get given out. If you're not in the final, it's kind of like,
Yeah, but you made it.
yeah, thanks, I did, yeah. But I was very...
Did you say that? Sorry. Let's just unpack that. Andy's saying... We can't gloss over that. Andy's saying it is so hard to get into a final. You would not believe. And then Rick's just, well, you made it, so it can't have been that hard.
That's not how I chose to interpret it, but yeah, I
They
do think
gave
that's
you
how
a
it came
pity
across.
spot. They
yeah.
squeezed an extra lane on for you to just find out.
Yeah,
I remember I beat you in a training race once.
Sorry, Andy, carry on.
I don't remember that, or if I did, I've blocked it from my
You
memory forever.
Very
Yeah.
deserving made that final.
Thanks. My
He's took
point
the wrong
wasn't
route.
about myself, actually. It was more...
Just wandered out and they went, yeah, sure, we'll let him run.
Oh my God, I don't even know where I was going. But you've got different countries, actually. You've got to go through your qualification process in your own country first, just to get to the Olympics. And that can be quite onerous, particularly if you're a US athlete that have incredibly high quality Olympic trials where people who could probably win an Olympic medal sometimes don't even make the team because they've fallen over, they're ill or injured on the day. There's absolutely zero leeway in the US selection policy. Then in the UK, some distances or events are particularly competitive, and that can be really difficult to get through. So and then you've got to fly out there and then go through it. But then there's the rounds. In the 1500 meters, you've got heats, semi-final and final. And I think you see superstars like Ingebrigtsen and Josh Kerr in the 1500 meters, and they make it look so easy in the heats and the semi-final.
Yeah.
Also, you've got
But it's not. Like they're head and shoulders probably, or they thought were better than everyone else. But also there's an element of mentality and confidence where people are looking at them going, well, I'm running for second here in this heat or this semi-final.
Yeah.
So true. You two have forgotten that 2024 was the year of the repechage. So not only the heats.
Yes.
The
They used to run an extra
repechage.
round. Yeah.
Extra one as well.
What I don't know, there was the guy in the hurdles whose name I've forgotten who gamed the system for the repechage. Because I was about to say, is there anybody that won a medal at the Olympics? We should do some research for the next episode as to whether anyone went through the repechage system and won a medal. I would argue not in the distance races because it's way too hard because you run an extra round. So you run 4 rounds to get to the 1500 meter final.
But the shorter stuff.
But the shorter stuff, I saw there was a guy in the 100 meter hurdle, 110 hurdles, who was injured or like carrying an injury. So he jogged his heat and got knocked out, then came back for the repechage.
Got through.
And I'm pretty sure he went through the rounds.
Yeah.
And but because the
interesting.
Don't know if I
repechage
got-
gave him an
yeah.
extra 40 hours or 36 hours to recover from this injury.
Injury is also an important point because there are lots of people as well who narrowly missed out on competing at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Lots of female athletes in the 100 and 200 who just didn't come up to the start line because they're injured as well. So that's like another factor. We've done a lot on sprints and shorter distances. Should we just quickly go over
marathon stuff? Yeah.
Marathon and ultra marathon as well. Interesting things that have happened in 2024 is we've seen the rise of popular marathons. I do think marathons are definitely becoming a hot topic.
Yeah.
Valencia especially is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger.
Flat.
Yeah, I think I really
So
put
flat.
that on the map last year.
Yeah. Your PR definitely did it. Probably that, and obviously not to the same extent, you being the top. Probably the £1 million prize fund for anyone who can break the world record might have a slight influence as well.
Yes. Is that for Billy who can break the world record?
So it is £1 million if you win.
I think it's for breaking 2 hours. You can win
Valencia.
€1 million.
€1 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, this year it was an incredible fundraising effort for the devastating floods that happened.
Yes,
all
we weren't sure it was
across
going to go
Spain as
ahead.
well.
Yeah.
And likewise, we were out in Malaga and that had suffered from floods. So we're glad to
It
see
feels
those
like
cities back on their feet.
one of the world marathons that's really on the rise.
Yeah,
Valencia
another
for sure.
one that
Yeah.
was absolutely huge. New York City was the biggest marathon ever this year.
Oh, how many people?
55,646 people completed
That's ginormous.
the
isn't it?
marathon, and that beat the previous best in New York of 53,639 finishes from 2019.
And only just over 56,000 people started it. So to have that higher finisher rate is incredible as well.
Especially with the amount of hills in it as well.
Yes, it's a tough marathon, yeah.
Speaking of hills, let's finish touching on Andy's favourite distance, the ultra marathon.
Yeah.
The men's UTMB runner, so Ultra Trail or Tour de Mont Blanc. Ultra Tour de Mont Blanc. The winner was a relatively
now you've got me thinking, is it trail?
Trail or Tour,
Yeah.
however you want to say it.
Yeah, one of those. UTMB.
We're not picky. It was a relatively unknown winner for the male race. And they're actually a
Shoe
designer.
designer. Yeah.
Shoe designer and worker for Hoka, and they went out and absolutely smashed it.
And they now have a contract, I think. So
Which
like they've
is
gone
so
from being
cool.
sort of in-house working for Hoka to then
Pro
I
athlete.
mean,
I'm
it
pretty
makes
good at this, you know?
sense.
I'm pretty good, guys.
Yeah, if you help design the best shoe and you wear
Yeah.
it and you win, 100%. And then 2 other mentions to some incredible athletes who have ran huge distances. First, Imo Body, who broke the 3 Peaks world record of summiting and running between the 3 peaks. She's also got a documentary film out now, which is incredible. So go and watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, you spot Taylor, who has helped out
Chris
on
Taylor,
the various running channels.
He's been on TRC Meets.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then finally, Dio Cato has become the first person ever to run from Cape Town to London. So you might remember earlier in the year, we talked about Russ Cook, who ran the entire length of Africa. Dio's not only just done that, but he's also then gone from the tip of Africa all the way back to London, and he finished on the 22nd of December, which is an absolutely phenomenal feat. Over 500 days of running, most of it as well was self-supported. He even did a stint in prison during part of this challenge, but still managed to come back, restart, and made it all the way. And he's done it as well to show the kind of route of migration and raise awareness and support for discrimination as well.
Okay, yeah. I know there's some more information about that on the Running Channel website as well if you do want to find out more. So that's really exciting.
Incredible. And I can't wait to see what more is going to happen in 2025, because it seems like running is still growing and getting bigger and better than ever.
Should we, I mean, you have Apple Music, you have Spotify Wrapped, and then you have Strava's Year in Sport, as well as some Garmin facts. Should we do a quick round of us? Just our key stats for this year?
Oh, yeah. What, using our Strava?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Oh,
All right.
Rick?
I think you two are going to just, whip me out the water on this.
Yeah, but you're focused on S&C. You've run a half marathon personal best and I believe a 10K personal best this year. So it's not all about the overall distance. So I think it's just interesting because at the beginning of this podcast journey, 2 years ago nearly now, I was hardly running at all. And so we'll come on to the numbers, but I ran 50% further in 2024 than I did in 2023.
Interesting.
Interesting.
15.
50.
50?
Yeah.
Golly gosh.
Yeah.
It's truth.
I also think it's important to note as well, like on the Strava, if you are looking at your year in sport, there'll be percentages that have an up arrow and there'll be percentages that have a down arrow.
Yeah.
I've got both, and that is absolutely fine. Don't be disheartened if all of them are pointing
Comparison
down.
is the thief of joy. So I was really just comparing myself to last year because I was interested to know how I'd got
But
on.
also your priorities might have changed. Like last year, I definitely did more trail and kind of ultra stuff, and so my elevation is down 14%.
Well, Sarah, I was going to say, I live in North London, so my elevation will beat both of you.
Go on, what's your elevation?
3,285 metres.
Are you kidding me? That's your total elevation?
Yeah.
Do you want to know what mine is?
What's that?
13,660 metres.
Ah, but you walked up some mountains, didn't you?
Yeah,
and you include
I
your
went-
walks when you walked up the Cairngorms.
You've got me, Sarah. I got 12,500.
Very good.
Yeah, well,
Should we do total
if you just
distance?
do that for like near your house, mine wins.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh,
Right.
sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
realise we had that
Total
rule on
distance,
it.
442 kilometres.
Nice one.
Nice.
Does it say what that was compared to last year? That must be more because you've been way more consistent this year. So have a little arrow next to it. Don't worry. I'm confident that's more than your last year.
Up.
It's up. Yeah,
What
yeah.
was yours?
1,807 kilometres.
Golly
Nice.
gosh.
Oh, Sarah's going
Sarah?
to be more than both of us. Look,
This
she's so
is not
smug.
bragging.
Oh, it is though.
2,083. But
Nice.
that does involve
Wow.
some walks as well. But that is down from 2023.
And I did it for, I was exercising, it turns out, for 141 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, 252 hours for me. Also, what I think is interesting, though, is that I quite like the total days active.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know we were talking about this on a club podcast recently of how, like, for a lot of runners, the importance of kind of getting out and being active is like what keeps our mind healthy as well. So I've got 228 days of being active.
Oh,
Look,
wow.
I beat you in S&C though, so that's all that matters.
Yes, that is. Are you regretting this segment
hey, look,
now?
it's not a comparison.
No,
it doesn't matter.
I completely agree. It's not a
It's
comparison.
a good kind of like
It's a benchmark.
yeah, it's a jumping off
benchmark.
point, and
No,
it doesn't
completely.
mean that 2025 you need to beat it, but it means like, okay, what did you enjoy this year?
Well, it's
Because
good to,
actually,
you compete with yourself, don't you?
Well, because you also might train for a marathon or an ultra where you put in quite a lot of miles, and they could be longer, slower miles. And then you might think, right, 2025, I'm going to try and run a bit faster over 5K. And then that might mean your overall distance covered massively changes. So, yeah, it's I just think it's interesting. And
No, it is.
enjoyed seeing my stats.
Thank you for pointing that out and wrapping that for us.
can we also just quickly before we finish touch on some Garmin stats that came out?
Go on.
So recently, Garmin did their kind of data report, which looks at health and wellness trends from Garmin users all around the world.
Yeah.
And I thought this was so interesting. Sorry, this is very UK centric, but we're from the UK. So if you're from somewhere else, then
You can write in and tell us your stats.
you can write it into your stats.
How do you compare?
So the UK ranked joint second for highest average sleep score.
Joint second.
Yeah.
Well, I can guarantee that doesn't take into account my sleep when I've shared a room with Rick this year.
But also the
Well, your
UK average.
sleep score dropped.
My sleep
drastically.
score, everything dropped.
Yeah.
So do you actually? Do either of you wear your watch to sleep?
Yeah, I do.
You do.
No, I don't.
Not religiously all of the time, but yeah, in order to have the best kind of results on my watch, I do.
Yeah. So I'm obsessed with my sleep score, and we were chatting for the two guys who are running the marathon from our team. We were chatting about like when was the last time your sleep score was below 80, and then one of the nights
It's out of
Malaga,
100, isn't it?
yeah, one of the nights in Malaga, my sleep score was 48. So
yeah, it's not ideal,
that was
is it?
that was a bad
Which
night.
one was that? First one?
The second night out that we did.
Second night, the Sunday after the race.
After the race.
Yeah,
unideal.
I can respect
But
that.
the UK sleep score average is 72 compared to
well
the global.
done, Britain. Well done.
Compared to the global average of 71. And the UK also ranked joint second for lowest average stress score.
Again, that can't be taken into account.
And
my
the
watch.
UK
That
was 29
surprises
compared
me.
to the average of 30.
I mean, my stress score. I'll show you what it is right now. But my stress score, whenever I'm talking to you guys, is dramatically higher than it would be the rest of the time. Oh, my watch is also telling me I'm detraining right now. That's nice.
I don't even know if I
My
have.
stress score is 40.
Mine's 35.
Oh, it's 36.
Oh, mine's just gone to 36 as well.
22. So actually,
right, so
Hey,
you're
Andy,
you guys are a
chilling.
calming influence.
Oh,
Who would have thought?
yeah.
Well, there we go. Let
Yeah.
us know. Email in podcast at the running channel. What stats or what things are your highlight of 2024? We would love to know. And once again, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. I'm sure for all of us, the podcast has been our highlight. We have absolutely loved doing it, and we will be doing it even more in 2025.
Yeah.
Happy
See you
New
then.
Year.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye.